I'm back. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. Hopefully, my voice doesn't sound too rotten. Actually, I feel pretty okay. COVID got me down, but not out. It's very much, or the remnants still kind of in my nose, in my throat. So if my voice sounds a little bit more marbly than usual, that's why. But I feel pretty good. I feel, I don't know, 90, 95%. Hey, Brian Smith. Hey, Direct Sun. Thanks for joining. So I wanted to. Oh, I already got Brian got the Spindrift on hand. Oh, the Spindrift is here. It is here. Strawberry lemonade. Still waiting on those sponsorship offers. Spindrift, just let me know. My phone line is open. Thought we'd go over the first of the. I guess they're calling it one D&D play test documents. But before that, I thought we could take a look. They have a world reveal trailer. So let's take a look. We can talk over it a bit, see what's going on. Let me see if I can work this properly. Hold on a second. Gonna hit the play button here.
Dungeons and Dragons is a thrilling adventure.
Thrilling adventure.
We play together as dungeon master and players, but also an adventure itself. Now we stand at the start of a new generation of Dungeons and Dragons.
All right.
And today we're going to introduce some of what's in store for us as we embark on an initiative that we call One D&D.
The One D&D initiative.
I love fantasy, but I never saw myself as the hero because I didn't think it was possible for someone who looked like me, who acted like me, who was like me to be that hero.
We want to continue to reach out to folks who are interested in fantasy, who love storytelling, who enjoy spending time with their friends and creating these collective stories that they can remember for years to come.
D&D's been around for 50 years.
All right, so it says, sounds like a Star Trek writer scripted it. Could be.
That people can really just not only share, but literally hand down to their kids. What we want to do is just add to that legacy.
We did a smart thing with 5th edition by listening to the fans. And what came out of that process
Did they listen to the fans of 5th edition?
That is stable, that is well loved, that incorporates the best elements of earlier editions.
All right, well, I might quibble with those best elements,
we are no longer in the position where
I can't argue with it being a well-loved system.
D&D as an addition. It's just D&D.
All right.
So 5th edition
the end of
that has
editions.
worked for so many people.
The end of
brought
history.
So many new and exciting folks into the game. It's more important for us to continue to cultivate and respect and love what it is, that the world has told us is working for them.
The sort of change you're going to see isn't about taking anything away from you, isn't about changing any of that.
Don't take it away.
It's much more about giving you more.
All
giving
right,
you more options,
everybody loves
giving
more.
You more choices you can make, more character types you can play, more magic spells you can cast. Basically, we're very happy with the game the way it is today. We just want to build on that. We're revising the major core rulebooks that every player uses, the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual.
One of my focuses specifically is the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm going to make some structural changes to make it more friendly to new DMs.
That could probably be very useful. I think the DMG is a great resource, but I would say it's probably not new GM friendly.
The person you are can appear in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
That's what 2024 holds, is this promise of getting new versions of the books that are the game you know, but reflect where the game is presently.
One D&D has 3 pillars, and one is the rule set,
What?
which is built on
exploration,
the base of
combat,
5th edition,
social?
but updated.
We're building upon the rules that have been established, the storytelling, and expanding our world and our rule system. When we say building on top of 5th edition, what we
Curious
mean
what
is
these
that,
rules
all the
expansions are going to
adventures
consist
and
of.
supplements that have been released in the past 10 years will still be playable with the new evolution of D&D.
Then there's D&D Beyond, which is the base of our digital tools and assists for players and DM. Currently, players are cobbling together all kinds of different apps and websites to have a true integrated D&D experience.
The integrated
What we want to
D&D
do is actually
experience.
just provide all the tools that the players need to play themselves in one space.
Right now, with the acquisition,
Because
of
this sounds like
D&D
they're coming
Beyond,
at
we've already started
Roll20
to
and
dip our
Fantasy
toe
Grounds
into
and those
digital,
guys.
and it was a fantastic partnership that we have going, but we can add more.
Digital physical bundles is something that we've wanted
It
to
seems
do
like
for
they
a
are
long time, and now
taking
that D&D
aim
Beyond
at
is part of our
virtual
family,
tabletops.
It's finally something we can do. Your content is available anywhere you want it, and you have those physical books, but you've got nice portable versions that you can access through your phone or through your tablet or through your other device.
Then our future-facing aspect.
Brian
of
Smith
this
says,
is
I'd love
the
them to just
D&D
honor the
digital,
different
which
ways
will
people
become
play and
a full
have
play
D&D,
space
role-playing, tactical, whatever, like a couple flavors.
for you to have
Yeah, it'd be cool if they
experiences that are
modularized
more
some of the
immersive.
stuff. Though I suppose
Right
it
now,
is
we're in
kind
early
of modular the way it
development of our
is.
digital experience.
Modular.
We can
Say.
play
But yeah, they
game,
could probably
rolls of
make that more of a
dice, seats,
focus
the
if they
miniatures
want to.
moving around in a 3D play space.
This
But
3D
that's just
stuff
the
they're
core.
showing is kind of impressive. Of course, it's just a little mini demo.
We chose the Unreal Engine for several reasons.
Has a bit of that Tailspire vibe to it, though stylistically it's different. And as someone was complaining in the Tailspire, not complaining, was noting that they didn't like the low poly look of Tailspire. This definitely has a more high-res, smooth
So we
graphical
use the
style.
camera technique called tilt shift. It actually makes things look small. We want to make sure that the experience for you is that you're experiencing a miniature
I do dig
set.
the tilt
Tilt
shift
shift camera
look.
was really chosen
Interesting
so
that they
people
want it
understood
to
that this wasn't
maintain
video
a
game,
tabletop
but it is a
minis look
digital
and not get
experience.
too
We
much
wanna
into
give
your
people more minis, more
like
options for
third-person
character customization. You can
CRPG
actually
kind of
change the
experience.
features, do
It's an
what you
interesting
want with it,
idea,
and you're going to
thought.
use this miniature approach to tell stories just like you do in physical tabletop.
To have your character live.
I want to live. Here
I'm
comes the
transported
orchestral
there, but I'm not
music
limited by the
rising.
digital technology.
We might give you a pre-made campaign from us that has an exciting castle or keep with a dungeon inside of it, exciting NPCs.
Would this keep be
But
on
then
the
you're gonna be able
Borderlands
to
by any
take this
chance?
playset, take it apart, and build your own. We're going to have a really robust tool for you to be able to create your own dungeons.
This is just the start of One D&D, and we are relying on all of you to help us out and figure out that future together.
What you're going to be able to see starting in August is a steady release.
It's going to be hard to
these
beat if you're a
playtest
5th
packages
edition
where you'll be able to
player.
engage
If you can get
with
beyond,
key aspects
get
of
some
the
other
game,
kind of, and then
provide
they
us with
merge
feedback,
that with
and
other
then we
virtual
will
tabletop
digest,
sort of tool that's already
process,
part of that,
interpret, analyze,
and then
and
link
then
that in with your
act
physical
upon.
books.
Really, it's you shaping the
That's a
next
really
generation
rough
of Dungeons and
package
Dragons,
to
and we wanna
compete
hear
against if
exactly
you're
what
a
you have to say.
another
Playtesting
platform.
starts today. Go to dndbeyond.com, download the playtest packet,
We're there,
and get
buddy.
ready to let us
We are
know where you'd
there,
like this
Mr.
next
Crawford.
leg of the adventure to go.
I think that's Jeremy Crawford. All right. Well, that was that. Orchestral music and people talking about it. It seems there definitely seems like there were definitely kind of two. They talked about three pillars, but it felt like they really concentrated on two. One was there's definitely this continuing move, I think, which I think is good towards this concept that hey, we want everybody to be able to see themselves in the game. We don't want people to feel like from wherever they are, wherever their background is, that there's something keeping them from playing. We want everyone to feel comfortable. And I don't have anything wrong with that. I know certain changes they've made in those directions have annoyed some people. I am not one of those. And look, as a GM, you can always remake the stuff in your own image anyway, whether that's a good idea or not. You're always open to do it. I think that definitely seems to be one of the key takeaways. I think another key takeaway is this idea that there's not going to have any additions going forward. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, they can stop saying first edition, second edition, third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition, right? They can say no more editions. We're not going to call it. But they're going to have some kind of designation, printing, revision, whatever it is. Because 2024, they're going to come out with books. And when people are asking about is a certain rule or a certain variant or certain something, which book is it in? Someone's going to say, well, go to your PHB. And someone's going to say, well, I have a PHB and it's not in there. And they're going to have to say, is it the 2024 printing or is it the original printing? Oh, it's in the original printing. Okay, you need to go out and buy the 2024 revision. That's just going to be your edition. Whether you want to call it, you don't want to call it 5.1 or 5.5, whatever. You want to say the 2024 printing, 2024 revision. You're going to have that divide. And then it's only going to get more than if you in 2028 or 2032, you come out with another set of books with more revisions. you're going to, again, be referencing, is it in the original edition, is it in the 2024 revision, or is it in the 2032 revision? Oh, it's in the 2032 revision. Great. It seems like a lot of this is pushing, or it's not explicit, but sort of implicitly sort of suggesting, hey, get your stuff on D&D Beyond, because guess what? D&D Beyond will just magically update with this stuff. You don't have to worry about which physical book you have. If your printed book is out of date or not, don't worry, because it's all on D&D Beyond. It's all going to be kept update. Great. Seems to be a little bit what they're doing. I'm sure they're never going to abandon print books. Well, never in my lifetime. I doubt they're going to abandon print books. But saying that there's not going to be editions, maybe they say it's not going to be major editions. And I also wonder if it ends up in that kind of Windows thing, where I think at one point Windows, maybe they still are, but there was something where they had to basically, for a long time, Windows was, and this is kind of back in the day, but we're always backwards compatible. We're backwards compatible. And then it got to be too, I even want to say that Mac OS went through this too, where it was just like, okay, we want to make major changes now, or we have to architecturally make, and then we just can't be backwards compatible anymore. So we'll see how long this lasts. And then, of course, there's always this stuff with power creep and everything as you get into more and more of all this more they're talking about. What does that do to the original stuff? Can they keep it all balanced? And 5th edition is so balance heavy. It's going to be interesting to see how this stuff shakes out. All right, so it's a smart move to draw the line at tilt shift so you don't end up with a video game. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, some people probably would enjoy it being totally video gameized. But yes, I agree with you. I think that's a smart move. And then Brian Smith also says, curious to see how streamers will use the good-looking and integrated 3D tabletop stuff. All streamers of D&D would be consistent visually. Yeah, now are they going to have different art packs? I mean, there's a whole lot there. And Wizards, they don't have the best. I don't know about Hasbro in general, but I think both of them, right? They don't have the best track record when it comes to these kind of digital projects. So it's going to be really interesting how this shakes out. I remember, I don't really follow it, but I think there even still is. There was a lot of issues with what the Magic the Gathering online stuff. All kinds of bad things happened. The pre-D&D Beyond, what I forget what it was called, they were trying to build out for in the 4th edition times. That kind of flamed out. D&D Beyond worked so well, but it was also third party, and then they kind of reacquired it. They licensed it out, and third party was running it, and they basically acquired them or acquired the assets, or I don't know how they did it, but basically developed out of house. So now they're bringing this back in-house. They're going to have this whole 3D engine with all this customization in there. I mean, I'm a little bit on the, well, let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that little 30-second demo looks good, but let's see when people actually get in there and need to build stuff out, when it's not just a little bit of a 10-second tech demo. Hey, Terrence, how are you? But that's that. And now we can head into the first of the playtest documents. Now that we've gotten our little intro, when we have everyone saying what a wonderful thing this is, the end of history, the end of editions. This is just going to be one D&D, one for you, one for me, one for all of us. We get to see this first part, which is on character origins. Terrence says, just what I need, another friggin' subscription service. I think if they have their way, Terrence, they're going to make it so that you'd only have one, and it would just be D&D Beyond. So if you're on Roll20, if you were paying monthly on something like Fantasy Grounds, you could, or one of the other ones, you would basically move everything across. I noticed that they didn't really talk about the online play aspects, how this stuff would work. It's all kind of there in the implications of it. They didn't show anything like, here's the dice roller, and here's how things go, and here's how that, like they showed nothing. They just showed, look, here's this engine for making your dungeons and having markers on it. But presumably you'd be logging into some service to do this. Excuse me. But again, they didn't say so. So who knows how this will all shake out. And it'll be interesting to see how Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, and all these things, Tailspire, and all these things that kind of occupy overlapping spaces, how they relate. Brian Smith says YouTube, Hulu, Disney Plus, and D&D, I guess. All right. Unearthed Arcana 2022 Character Origins. This document is the first in a series of Unearthed Arcana articles that present material designed for the Player's Handbook coming out in 2024. The material here uses the rules in the 2014 Player's Handbook, except where noted. Providing feedback on this document is one way you can help shape the next generation of D&D. All right. Excuse me. So we got character races. I wish they would change this to species or something else. Just get race out of there. When will you do this? Why won't you do this? I don't know. So we have the options that are considered for the player's handbook, all with updated design. We have character backgrounds. Here you'll see the fun role that a character's background is going to play in helping flesh out the character's origin. Yay, fun. Starting languages, feats. Every first level feat mentioned herein appears in the feats section, which contains both new and revised feats. And then we get a rules glossary. Before delving into these new options, please read the This is Playtest Material sidebar. To learn more about the design in this article, we invite you to play or to view the accompanying video. Is that the video we saw, or is there another one? We can go back and check out the video if there's one specifically about this booklet afterwards. This article is presented for playtesting and feedback. This D&D material is in draft form, usable in your D&D campaign, but not refined by full game development and editing. It isn't officially part of the game. That's basically, there you go. Power level. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than options in the Player's Handbook 2014. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before the official publication. This means an option could be more or less powerful in its final form. So basically, don't take this. And I've seen stuff on Reddit where people are going through and playing Fandelver with these options and commenting on whether it's higher or lower power. And I think they're trying to say here is don't really worry about that. I mean, I'm not worrying about it anyway, but if I was predisposed to worry, they're saying don't, because they're gonna adjust all the power levels later on. This is more, do you like this conceptually, than is it the exact hit die, or is this number, it gets 3, whatever all those kind of nitty gritty crunchy parts are. All that stuff is going to be re-engineered later on. I think they're saying this is more about, hey, conceptually, do you like this, and not, is this particular number exactly where it needs to be? Terrence said, people missed feats and they will be pushed harder in this edition, quote unquote. Edition in quotes. Do people miss feats? I think everyone includes feats. Or are you saying like feats like 3rd editions, more of that kind of style feats? I guess I think I read that they were going to bring back the idea of feat chains. If I got that correctly. I don't know how I feel about that. But we get this character origin overview. Creature type. Every character and monster in the game has a creature type. That makes sense. Okay, we have size, and then we have speed. Fine. I don't really care too much. Did I skip one? No. Lifespan, average age. Lifespan is an average for a member of the race, assuming dangers of adventure don't shorten that span. Okay. I think they could just make those generic, right? Short lifespan, moderate lifespan, long lifespan, immortal, nigh immortal. Brian Smith says, no more additions. D&D, one of us. Yes. Exactly. Special traits. Each race provides special traits, the collection of abilities that characters gain from their ancestors. Okay, and then we get background stuff. We get ability score bonuses, skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, language, feats, and equipment. Your species and background together help bring your character's backstory into focus, and they distinguish the character from other members of that same class. For example, 2 characters might both be members of the fighter class, but if one is a human guard and the other is a dwarf gladiator, the 2 bring different capabilities and flavor to the class. After choosing a race and a background, you choose a language. I want to stop using race. Choosing a species and a background, you choose a language that your character knows, in addition to the common tongue and whatever language you gained from the background you chose. Combination of species, background, and language provides fertile soil for your imagination as you ponder your character's earliest days and imagine the character's family, occupation, hometown, and more. Well, there you go. Let's see. So the species part or ancestry. I thought ancestry was a good one too. Slurring Scott. Hey, Slurring Scott says people do like feats, but the ones in the PHP weren't balanced. Well, we'll see if that's still an issue. Right. And we could see already this, we're not going to have additions, but we're going to be referencing different revisions. So, Player's Handbook 2014 is not going to be Player's Handbook parentheses 2014. And presumably when they get around, when it's out, then we'll have Player's Handbook parentheses, 2024. I wonder if they're going to have cross references. And by that, I mean, is everything in the current PHP going to be in the new PHP so that you'll have no reason if you have a new PHP to reference the original? Or, I mean, that seems to be, I'm guessing that's what they're saying, but that will be interesting if there's stuff that, I don't know, pages, whatnot, doesn't make the cut. Kind of like that Player's Handbook 1, Player's Handbook 2 sort of thing, but I'm thinking that these are going to be direct replacements. Children of different humanoid kinds. Thanks to the magical workings of the multiverse, humanoids of different kinds sometimes have children together. For example, folk who have a human parent and an orc or an elf parent are particularly common. Many other combinations are possible. If you'd like to play the child of such a wondrous pairing, choose 2 race options that are humanoid to represent your parents. Then determine which of those species options provides your game traits, size, speed, and special traits. You can then mix and match visual characteristics, color, ear shape, and the like of the 2 options. For example, if your character has a halfling and a gnome parent, you might choose halfling for your game traits and then decide that your character has the pointed ears that are characteristic of a gnome. Finally, determine the average of the 2 options' lifespan traits to figure out how long your character might live. For example, a child of a halfling and a gnome has an average lifespan of 288 years. Sir Scott also says that they think the next playtest will be classes. That was in a different video. Okay, cool. Well, I am planning to cover these as they come out, more or less. So we'll get through them all. So the first up in terms of our species are humans. Found throughout the multiverse, humans are as varied as they are numerous. They are relatively short-lived, but they strive to achieve as much as they can in the years they are given. They are skilled pioneers and artisans. They are builders of nations, roads, cities, and ships. They strive to secure their place in the world and in the annals of history by creating art, amassing wealth, making laws, and questing for immortality. Their ambition and resourcefulness are commended, respected, and feared. Humans are as diverse in appearance as the people of Earth, and they have many gods. Scholars dispute the origins of humanity, but one of the earliest known human gatherings is said to have occurred in Sigil, the torus-shaped city at the center of the multiverse, and the place where the common tongue was born. From there, humans could have spread to every corner of the multiverse, bringing Sigil's cosmopolitanism with them. Well, there you go. If you ever wondered, maybe humans come from Sigil, or thereabouts. So humans, all right, I'm not sure if I'm going to, how many of you guys blow through? I'm not going to, okay, yeah, I'm not going to go through all of them, right? They're humanoid, they're medium-sized, 30 feet, 80 years on average. We get the special traits humans do of resourceful. You gain an inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. You're skillful. You gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. And you're versatile. You gain the skilled feat or another first-level feat of your choice. So if you're human, that's what you're getting. Humans of many worlds. On any given world in the multiverse, the material culture of humans can change from one region to another. In the Forgotten Realms, for example, the clothing, architecture, cuisine, music, and literature are wildly different in the Western Heartlands than in the frozen north of Icewind Dale. As humans migrate, they bring elements of their cultures with them, giving rise to diverse settlements that contain people with different physical characteristics, not to mention a medley of clothing styles, customs, and beliefs. In other words, there's no monoculture for humans. I think that's what they're saying. No monoculture. There are all kinds of different ones. So I guess it seems I would go without saying for a whole species, but I guess I want to let us know. Ardling. What the devil is an Ardling? Ardlings are supernatural beings who are either born on the upper planes or have one or more ancestors who originated there. Their bright souls shine with the light of immortal beings who call the upper planes home. So I guess these are kind of your celestial, or what? Not tiefling. One of the other opposite of a tiefling? Maybe not. An Ardling has a head resembling that of an animal, typically one with virtuous associations. Depending on the animal, the Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers, or supple bare skin. The Ardling's celestial legacy determines the animal it resembles. An Ardling gains a measure of magical power from their celestial legacy, as well as the ability to manifest spectral wings. An Ardling's moral and ethical outlook is self-determined, however, not fixed by ancestry. The 3 classical legacies are as follows. Azamars, thank you, Terrence, but with animal heads. Yeah, I mean, the animal heads is kind of cool. There's a lot of, you look at ancient Egyptian, kind of ancient Mesopotamian art, you see all these different kind of demigods or gods and demigods with animal heads. So this is kind of cool, I guess. Of course, they're noting here that, hey, you may be born from some kind of celestial parentage, but you do not have to be good. Notice they didn't even say alignment. They just said moral and ethical outlook. You can still be some kind of evil rat bastard, even if you are an Ardling, if you so choose. Getting on to the legacies, you have Exalted, the fierce passions of Arborea, the heroic heart of Isgard, and the wondrous nature of the Beastlands call to Ardlings who have the exalted celestial legacy. Their celestial ancestors are heroic champions of the chaotic good planes. Remember, though, here we have the interesting here that they're keeping the alignment, at least in terms of the name of the plane, but you don't have to be that, but those are your ancestors. The Heavenly Legacy, the blissful harmony of Arcadia, the unwavering justice of Mount Celestia, and the bucolic paradise of Bitopia touch the souls of Ardlings who have the Heavenly Celestial Legacy. Their celestial ancestors are staunch defenders of the lawful good planes. And then finally, Idyllic, the idyllic celestial legacy connects Ardlings not only to the Beastlands and Bitopia, but also the eternal compassion of Elysium. Their celestial ancestors are paragons of kindness who hail from the neutral good planes. And then as far as traits, they're humanoid, they're immediate, the size, they're medium, speed 30 feet, lifespan 200 years on average. And then as an Ardling, you have these special traits: angelic flight. As a bonus action, you sprout and spectral wings for a moment and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. If you are in the air at the end of this movement, you fall if nothing is holding you aloft. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Sloaner Scott says they like this race flavor better than Azamar. I mean, I do like the flavoring. I think the flavoring is very good. I wonder if people are going to have fits with this angelic flight. I mean, the same GMs that are complaining that winged creatures and can jump over traps. I mean, this is literally the jump over a trap skill, because you can at least go 30 feet floating. And the fact that your wings are spectral means that you don't even have that, the corridor is too narrow. You can't get your wings out that you might have put with a bird creature or a winged goblin. Say, oh, you don't have 10 feet of room to get your wings out. Sorry, can't fly. It's like, well, these are really spectral, pal. It's just basically magic flight. So take your trap and shove it, Mr. GM. I mean, to me, that's not a big deal at all, but I'll be curious how that goes over with folks who already are irritated by flight. Though the nice thing is you can only fly the 30 feet. There's no, I'm going to hover at 200 feet indefinitely. Like, no, you gotta come down. Otherwise, I mean, you can't even fly up 200 feet, I suppose. It just says equal to your speed. It doesn't seem like you can actually use running. So basically, you can just go 30 feet in some direction, then you got to come down. You can use this as a bonus action. I was kind of hoping they would get rid of some of these where you have to track stuff. I mean, I'm all about things like tracking, encumbrance and resources and things like that. But some of these other ones, I wish they would do in such a way that you could eliminate some of that tracking. And we get animals. So exalted could be cat, eagle, goat, or mule. You get a first level, third level, and fifth level spell. Is that true? Celestial Legacy. You are the recipient of a Celestial Legacy that grants you magical abilities. Choose a legacy from the Celestial Legacies table. You gain the initial benefit of the chosen legacy, which is a cantrip that you learn. You also choose the animal you most closely resemble. All right, and then at third level, and then again at fifth level, you gain the ability to cast a higher level spell with this trait as shown on the table. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. However, you can cast a spell using any spell slots you have of the appropriate level. Interesting. What if you are a fighter? Do you not get to cast those spells other than the cantrip? I'd be curious to know that. I would be curious to know. Because it seems like that would be a cool way if you like some of these spells. I just want these spells. Maybe I'm a ranger. So I think, I'll take the idyllic, I'll get guidance, take healing word to third level, then fifth level, I can get animal messenger. I guess rangers have spell slots though. Well, let's say I'm doing a fighter, kind of a rangery type, but I want fighter. Does that mean I can't get that benefit if I have no spell slots? It says you can cast the spell using any spell slot you have at the appropriate level. I don't know. I don't know. That one's a weird one. I would just say, I mean, I guess as a GM, I would rule that yes, you can, even if you don't have a spell slot, because that's part of what you chose. But it's a weird thing to say. You can only do it once. So why not just say you do it once? By saying using any spell slot you have at the appropriate level would indicate that if you don't have a fifth level spell slot, you can't cast it. Sloaner Scott says you can cast it once if you don't have spells. All right, well. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I hope that's part of it. Hey, Michael Anderson. I hope that's part of it, because otherwise it makes it a little bit funky to me. Ardlings of many worlds. Okay, I'm going to skip some of that. And then now we get to Dragonborn. I'm not the biggest Dragonborn fan, but I know people like them. I don't know why I'm not a huge fan of them. There's nothing about them that I dislike so much. Though I think one of the things that, and maybe it's just me, right? You get this breath attack, and the people are like, why doesn't your breath attack scale? But I don't think a lot of stuff with your, now this, they're doing more things that are scaling. This legacy scales. So at this point, if they're going to have a lot of these species options that have scaling abilities, then I guess Dragonborn's breath should scale. But I think part of it is I always felt like with your built-in kind of species abilities that they shouldn't scale because they're meant to kind of they can be a help at low levels, but at high levels you're really relying on your class stuff and not at you kind of leave your sort of species stuff behind. But that's my feeling on it, and I'm sure a lot of folks do not agree with me, which is fine. All right, so we already know about Dragonborn. I'm going to kind of skip some of this. I don't think they're changing it too much. They're humanoid, medium again, 30 feet, 80 years on average lifespan. Here are their special traits: draconic ancestry. Your lineage stems from a dragon progenitor. Choose the type of dragon from the draconic ancestor table. Your choice affects your breath weapon and damage resistance traits. Chosen dragon also affects your appearance, with you displaying coloration and other features reminiscent of that dragon. So you got black, gives you acid, blue, lightning, brass, fire, bronze, lightning, copper, acid, gold, fire, green, poison, red, fire, silver, cold, and white, cold. Right, so it says they don't think they should scale because the Dragonborn isn't growing into a dragon as they level. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can look at it, right? It could be, you could say though, but they're maturing as a Dragonborn, so shouldn't you, as a early adult Dragonborn, maybe then mature and it gets more? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at kind of from a meta standpoint of, I think that as you level up, your species abilities are the stuff that's kind of fun in a pinch or against with low level stuff, but then you're relying more and more on the stuff that you've accumulated over your adventuring as opposed to the stuff that you came into the game with. And then there's if you're the fantasy naturalist, how does that come off, right? There's no wrong answer, I don't think. I don't even think the people who want it to scale, although I don't agree with it, I don't think that's a wrong answer either. It's just a matter of how do you like your flavors? How do you perceive Dragonborn as being yada, yada, yada. So we get our breath weapons. As an action, you exhale destructive energy in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity. All right, I don't really care about the particulars. So you take D10 plus your character level and damage. So that you do get some scaling here. By level 10, you will be doing, from 10 to 20 as opposed to 1 to 10. Or, what it scales up at each level. So a 20th level Dragonborn can do, 21 plus points of damage. You can use this breath weapon a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended use as you finish a long rest. You get damage resistant towards your damage type. You get dark vision. I thought said they were getting rid of dark vision. But I guess not. They have dark vision up to 60 feet, and the language of dragons. Yeah, nothing bad there. I don't remember if it is now, but I guess so. If you wanted your scaling damage, you are getting it since it's taking your character level into account. So if you like that, great. If you don't like that, I don't know what the default damage is now, so I don't know if the numbers are the same. But you've got it. Let's see. Sloring Scott says, I don't think anyone I have played with has played a Dragonborn, so something is not what people are looking for. Yeah, some people seem to like it a lot. Some like them a lot, other not. I don't know. It's interesting. When did it first come out? Was it when did Dragonborn first make their appearance? Were they always part of Forgotten Realms? I don't recall, but I've played in game. I haven't played one myself, but I've played in games with them, and they're neat. I think they occupy an interesting spot. That's kind of like Dragon Man, right? And maybe. And I think there's a lot of different ideas on how that works. Right? Are you sort of the idea of playing a dragon is really cool, but this isn't quite that. You're not really becoming a dragon. You're not a person. I don't know. It occupies an interesting spot, and it kind of plays into a position in which I think you can have a lot of people with very different feelings on it in terms of what they could be and what they are. And I'm half dragon, half man. What does that mean to you? I almost wonder if they could have given it a different name and maybe But I think they wanted to play into the whole dragon heritage thing. If they'd called them, I don't know, Lizardians or something, people might come at it very differently. Aaron says it was from a splat book called Races of the Dragon. Oh, okay. That sounds vaguely familiar to me. On to dwarves. I'm going to skip the fluff on the dwarves. Humanoid, also size medium. Even though they're only 4 to 5 feet tall, they're still medium, 30 feet, 350 years on average lifespan, and then they get dark vision. Dwarven resilience, they have resistance to poison damage, and they have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition. They have dwarven toughness. Your hit point max increases by 1, and then increases by 1 again whenever you gain a level. Your Forge Wise, your divine creator gave you an uncanny affinity for working with stone or metal. You gain tool proficiency with 2 of the following options of your choice: jeweler's tools, mason's tools, smith's tools, or tinker's tools. And you have stone cutting. As a bonus action, you gain tremor sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. You must be on a stone surface or touching a surface to use this tremor sense. The stone can be natural or worked. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses. Okay, I'm going to stop repeating that boilerplate every time it says proficiency bonus. And these are cool. Forge-wise seems like it's going to be very dependent on the type of campaign. I think if you have one, I mean, if I was a dwarf, I'd want to be able to pick those and be able to use them in the games that I run. You probably wouldn't have much opportunity. I'd have to really rethink how I'm doing that. Mason's tools, I would probably say take Mason's tools. Maybe Tinker's tools. Well, I'm not exactly sure. I think of tinkering in these kind of games, I think of sort of MacGyverism, so maybe that's good. Jeweler's tools might be handy. I'm not a big crafts person, so I would probably say, maybe leave the Smith's tools behind. Ryan Smith says they love giving dwarves tremor sense. Why limit it, though? I mean, all these abilities are limited. You know, this is the running theme, right? You get a special ability that you can use so many times. You know, I mean, tremor sense, if you just gave it to them, that would be pretty strong, I think. And the way things are balanced here, I think you'd have to take away everything else for just having tremor sense. Well, you certainly don't need dark vision if you have tremor sense. I suppose you'd have to just play with it. But yeah, I mean, I could see why not just give him tremor sense? Just because it's pretty darn strong. I'm sure you could change it up. You might just need to balance it if you care about the balancing stuff. Because it is limited to just stone and stone-like things, though that's a lot of your areas, right? Because it can be natural stone or it can be cut stone. So it's not just in your dungeon. It's also if you're in castles or in a lot of most 90% of your locations in your game are going to have stone usually, if not wood, but if it's bigger, it's going to be stone. So that's a lot. You're going to get your fair use out of that tremor sense. So if you want to give it to them, maybe think about those other things. And of course, the way this is working out, you're not going to find any weaknesses. So you can't say to dwarves, "Oh, you get tremor sense, but you don't like the sun or something." -2 in the sun, right? They got rid of all that. So they got rid of a lot of the things that could counterbalance giving your species some stronger abilities. Which is the other thing that I wish they maybe would reconsider, because I feel like it's a little throwing away the baby with the bathwater. Is I get some of the stuff not being how they want to go, but the fact is it really limits what you can do with certain species because you just run out of room. You want to give someone a bunch of abilities because that's what the creature has, but then you go, well, I want to do these other things too, and I can't because I can't change the XP tables. I can't say like you might do as a race as class, kind of species as class sort of thing, where I can say, look, I can give elves a bunch of stuff and front load it, but I'm going to make their XP tables pretty unforgiving. So you're going to be behind everybody else in terms of your progression because you're getting front loaded a bunch of excellent stuff. Or on the other hand, I'm going to give you something amazing, but I'm going to give you this other thing that is a drawback that you're going to have to balance it, or do both. You don't have those. So you really are limited in what you can conceivably give something without it becoming overpowered because you can't balance it. You know, and the same thing kind of with Dragonborn breath weapons is everything has to be balanced on the fact that they have that breath weapon. They can't give it to them and say, well, you're going to have more experience, but your breath weapon is going to be really formidable. You can't. So it's got to occupy this area where it goes, okay, well, we'll do some stuff with it, but we can only do so much because otherwise it just falls out of whack with, falls out with everything else, and there's no way to rebalance it other than to tone it down. Sloaner Scott says that might be cool to take dark vision and give tremor sense. Yeah, take dark vision away, maybe take something else away. I don't know. Definitely have to play with it. I wonder if they would, because I think that would be a good thing, and it'd make the dwarves a little bit different too. Give them a little bit, because it kind of, the tremor sense is interesting because it does sort of mimic some of the earlier abilities. And granted, they don't have the slanting passageway sense and that stuff, but the tremor sense is pretty strong. But yeah, I don't think if you're going to give it to them permanently, they definitely don't also need dark vision. Brian Smith says, you like rocks, but you hate non-rocks. Disadvantage and everything but rocks. Yeah, it could be, but they're not doing that. I mean, you can do it yourself, but they're not doing any kind of disadvantageous traits. So I'm going to skip over the fluff on the elves. We have several lineages here: Drow, High Elf, Wood Elf. Drow, the range of your dark vision increases to 120 feet. You also know the Dancing Lights cantrip, and then Fairy Fire, and then Darkness. High Elves, you know the Prestidigitation cantrip. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace that cantrip with a different cantrip from the arcane spell list. That's pretty cool. You get Detect Magic at 3rd level, and at 5th level, you get Misty Step. And then Wood Elf, your speed increases to 35 feet. You also know the Druidcraft cantrip, and then you get Long Strider at 3rd level and Pass Without Trace at 5th level. Those are cool. Elves, interesting, they're not immortal here. 750 years on average. Get dark vision, you get that lineage we just went through. Because of your Fey ancestry, you have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed condition. Your proficiency in the perception skill, and you don't need to sleep. You can go into a trance, and you only need 4 hours to finish a long rest if you're in that trance-like meditation, during which you regain consciousness. You retain consciousness. Brian Smith says, maybe just a list of likes you get advantage on and dislikes you get disadvantage on for each ancestry or whatever's. Yeah, I mean, they just made it clear that as a design practice, they're not doing anything disadvantageous. They're not going to have any kind of penalties, which I get, because they can get, and I get it. Like I said, I think that there's some things they could do without. I'm fine with them not having the -2 to strength or -2 to intelligence, because those have ramifications in different areas. And I understand why they might not want to get in those waters again. And it's not that useful. I mean, I saw somebody complaining some not very bright GM on Reddit claiming that, a female character with 18 strength was not as strong as the male character with identical 18 strength. Like, it's just these kind of idiocies that you have to deal with. So I get doing away with that kind of thing. But you could have other disadvantages. Like, yeah, maybe dwarves in the presence of something have disadvantage on whatever. You could. Like I said, I think there are good things you can do with having some of these balances that would allow you to either give more abilities or give stronger abilities if a certain concept requires it, and then you can give some drawbacks to balance it. But by removing the drawbacks, it means that all your things you're giving have to be in a narrow band, and you just really just can't exceed that band. And that just makes it hard to model some more interesting abilities, or they end up in kind of nigh useless things, which I think like Dragonborn's breath attacks probably fell into there, whereas because that's being this narrow band, it's hard to make it something that's really useful over the long term, but not overshadowing a bunch of other species, class abilities. So you end up in this weird spot where, hey, you got this ability, it seems pretty cool, but then it's not really as cool as you think it is, because it's got to be kind of kept at this weak point. They did take light sensitivity. Yep, they took it away. So Drow, known for their white hair and dusky gray skin tones, they typically dwell in the Underdark, but there's noteworthy exceptions. Yep, and they mentioned that an Eberron, Drow dwell in gloomy rainforests and Cyclopean ruins. High Elves, Wood Elves. Yep, they did. I'm fine with that. It's not a big deal. And those are the things that, and probably going back to why I wish they'd kind of do something with dark vision, is it's hard to, it makes it hard to adjudicate in a fair way. It's very easy to run crosswise with a GM who feels like drows, light sensitivity, whatever that should just be overwhelming with a player that thinks on the flip side feels like they just wear a baseball cap. They're all good kind of thing. Just like, what does dark vision mean? And then you're mixing that in with parties of different types, and some of them have this and some of them have that, and how do you make that all work together? So I'm fine. Someone can play it with the flavor. You can always play the flavor of, oh, I got to take a moment to get used to the sunlight. And I don't feel like you need whatever the little mechanical thing is. And because 5th edition's gotten rid of a lot of the individual plus minuses, is it enough to be disadvantaged? No. So you can say, well, you're uncomfortable or you don't love it, but it's not that damaging. It's not damaging enough to actually impede you from doing something you want to do. On to gnomes. Humanoid, small, 30 feet, 425-year average lifespan. They get dark vision. They get gnomish cunning. They have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. And then they get a gnomish lineage. Forest gnomes get the minor illusion cantrip. And they can also cast speak with animals with this trait. Rock gnomes get gnome mending and prestidigitation cantrips. And then you can use 10 minutes to create a tiny clockwork device, such as a toy, a fire starter, or a music box. That's cool. That has a lot of flavor. There is a lot of that. There's a lot of. I like these where you can already picture in your mind's eye the kind of interesting things you could do with it. Hey, I've got 10 minutes. Could I MacGyver up something interesting? And it's got to be small. Can't be too complicated. But fire starter, great if you need a fire somewhere and you don't have your tin kindling or whatever your any way of kindling your fire. Otherwise, maybe you could do a toy. I could see some kind of simple mechanical device. I could think of a gnome sitting there spending 10 minutes and then trying to do like a Looney Tunes trick where they a little wind up toy that goes off into the corridor to distract the guard. You can just have a lot of fun with it that you can imagine, but it's not super powered, right? And you do need to have 10 GP worth of raw materials, though. Of course, if you don't track that, then maybe they could become. I mean, I could see doing some. That to me is like a usage die situation, whereas the gnome can go into town and pick up all kinds of doodads, and then have a usage die for that, and not worry about the 10 GP stuff. But it's there. So only forest gnomes and rock gnomes. That's fine. On to halflings. Humanoid, also small, 30 feet, 150 years on average. Their special traits are brave, advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition. Halfling nimbleness, they can move through the space of any creature that is of a size larger, but you can't stop there. Luck, when you roll a 1 on a d20. On the d20 of a d20 test, that's an interesting way of putting it. You can re-roll the die and you must use the new roll. And then you're naturally stealthy, you have proficiency in the stealth skill. So that one's a pretty straightforward. D20 test. I guess that means there's some things that you're rolling a D20 on, they're saying you cannot use luck on. And this one has no limit. You can do that many times as you want. That's pretty good. Orcs. Humanoids, medium size, 30 feet, 80 years on average lifespan. Their special traits are Adrenaline Rush. They can take the dash action as a bonus action. When they do, they gain a number of temporary hit points equal to their proficiency bonus. They can dash around and kind of gain up some sort of fervor. They have dark vision. They have a powerful build. They count as one size larger when determining carrying capacity in the weight they can drag, push, or lift. And they've got that relentless endurance. Brian Smith says D20 test is just shorthand for ability /save/attack. Okay, so what doesn't fall in there? What would be a D20 test? Are there any that don't fall in there? Because it seems so specific. They don't want it to be anytime you roll a D20. So I'm wondering, what are the D20 rolls that would fall outside of that generally? I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know if there's anything that they want to withhold from there. I mean, that's already most of your rolls, right? So what edge cases are they pushing outside that D20 test? I mean, presumably if you roll the D20 for damage, you wouldn't. But does anything roll a D20 for damage? Spell or something? I'm not sure. Orcs, pretty straightforward. Tieflings, their traits or their legacies are Abyssal, Chthonic, and Infernal. So these legacies, Abyssal, they get resistant to poison damage, and they know the poison spray cantrip. 3rd level, they get Ray of Sickness. At 5th level, they get Hold Person. Chthonic, they get resistance to necrotic damage, and they know the Chill Touch cantrip. They get False Life at 3rd level, Ray of Enfeeblement at 5th level. And then Infernal, they have resistance to fire damage. They also know the Firebolt cantrip, and they get Hellish Rebuke at 3rd level and Darkness at 5th level. And then otherwise, they're medium, they're humanoid again, 30 feet speed, 100-year lifespans. They get Dark Vision, they get that Fiendish Legacy, and they have Otherworldly Presence. They know the Thaumaturgy cantrip. Oh, Brian Smith says it's just a less real estate thing. I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't imagine they're worried about real estate with this kind of test document. It's just an interesting. We'll have to see if it shows up anywhere else. It's just an interesting way of putting it because they could have just said on a D20 roll, but by saying of a D20 test, and is there an asterisk there too? Was there an asterisk? Yeah, we'll have to see what that asterisk means. Maybe that will shed some light on it. Never big. I was never a big Tiefling fan. They're fine. I don't know. I don't care too much about them. Okay, so that was it for the races. On to backgrounds, or I should say species. On to backgrounds. Choose a background. You have 3 options. Build a background, like Build-A-Bear, but with backgrounds. You can make your own. You can select a pre-made, or you can select a pre-made and then customize it. No matter which background you choose, consider these questions from your character's viewpoint. How does your background influence your current worldview? Do you embrace or reject your background? Did you form any relationships during your background that endure today? These are all good questions to ask. Do you have a worldview? All right, so you can build your background. So you get your, oh yeah, that was the other thing. We didn't have any ability score, right? They removed, there was no ability score increases. Here, it's part of your background. You can choose 2 of them. You can increase one by 2 and the other by 1, or you can choose 3 and increase them all by 1. You choose 2 skills. Your character gains proficiency in those. You can choose 1 tool and gain proficiency in that. And then you can choose 1 language from the standard languages and rare languages tables. Your character knows that language. So I guess they totally got rid of, and maybe they already had in 5th edition. I don't know, but the whole intelligence bonus giving you languages seems to be gone. I don't know if it was in 5th edition at all, but it just occurred to me. And then you can choose a 1st level feat. So presumably, I guess the one big change is feats gets pointed out oftentimes in arguments on Reddit and elsewhere are optional, but here they are, at least in this terms of this playtest document, they are not optional. They are part of the rules. I mean, you could make them optional or get rid of them, but the default is that they're in. And then equipment, you get 50 gold pieces to spend. Ability score increases from elsewhere. Here are the box text. Since 2014, characters have received ability score increases from several sources, either from a species that has an ability score increase trait or from the ability score rules in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Monsters of the Multiverse, and other books. If you make a character using one of those other older sources and get ability score increases from it, the character doesn't also get ability score increases from background, unless you forego the older ability score increases to gain the increases from the background rules here. So you don't get to double dip, people. No double dippery. I think I'm just going to skip through these. So the sample backgrounds, because we've seen how they're building them up. I think it's pretty straightforward. So the Acolyte, I guess I'll do the Acolyte one because it's here. So you get +2 wisdom, +1 intelligence. You get proficiencies in insight and religion. You get a tool proficiency in calligrapher's supplies. You know the celestial language, and you gain the magic initiate divine feat. And the equipment you get a prayer book, some calligrapher's supplies, a holy symbol, some parchment, a robe, and you have 3 gold pieces left over. And then we get artisan, charlatan, criminal, cultist, entertainer, farmer, gladiator, guard, guide, hermit, laborer, noble, pilgrim, sage, sailor, soldier, urchin. Yeah, they're all pretty standard. it might be nice to say to do things, because I think one of the things that could use bolstering in terms of the background setup is maybe gives people some contacts, things that they can call on that they can fill in later. I mean, they mentioned the questions of, well, do they know anybody, or what do they remember from their old life? It might be nice to have that cemented a little bit and say, hey, you have one contact in this field. You can kind of set them up. The first time you need it, you use it, you write it in there, and that's set. Something like that. Like, oh, you're starting off in Phandalin, or, okay, great. And you want to say, oh, I want to know this person. Great. Write that in. That's your one contact. And it has to fit within certain things. So if an urchin, you might have a contact in the underworld, but then maybe also in the local constabulary or whatever force, because they've, the guard or whatever, because they've arrested you multiple times. If you're a sailor, maybe you know a captain, or a merchant or somebody else. Those kind of things are nice, and and I think they help both with sort of your building out your character story, but then also giving you something kind of actionable that you can use to help especially when you're starting out and your characters don't know anybody. You're kind of starting the game, gives you some way of anchoring yourself, say, "Oh, I know a guy," kind of thing, and it brings you into that social pillar of the game that not that much stuff really throws at you. Let's see, Elliot Michelle or Marshall. Hey, Elliot says, languages being connected to background seems odd. I like all the rest, but not that. I think it makes sense having a language from your background. I would probably say get a language from your species, get a language from your background, and then maybe if you have high intelligence or something, get another language. Because it does make sense if you're a sailor that you would learn languages. It's kind of like if you work in a kitchen, you might pick up Spanish, because so many of the folks that work in kitchens are Hispanic or Latinx or whatever, speak Spanish. It's just the nature of it. You work in a kitchen, and at least in the US, you're going to run into lots and lots of Spanish speakers. So it makes sense if you had your background, let's say we're doing it in the real world. I'm in New York City and I have a background as I worked in kitchens. Having Spanish as a language would make sense. By the same token, if you're an urchin, maybe thieves can't or something as a language, because you've been working around a bunch of thieves and things like that. Makes sense. As it being your only language, yeah, I might say, well, I want to, and I want to have characters knowing multiple languages. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of a low bar to just give people some extra, hey, take an extra language. Because I think they're always just useful in a good way for the game. As a GM, I want my players to be engaging with people trying to talk to them. And if they only speak one language, then I'm potentially leaving them out of a lot of ability to converse with people. And I want them to converse. So I would be more than happy to say, hey, get one from your species, get one from your background, and then just get one and tell me where maybe that'd be a good one. Hey, take the language, you just tell me how you got there. You can add it to your backstory. So if you're an urchin and you speak elf, give me a sentence saying where you picked up elf from. Florian Scott says, attachments to the world, that is the only kind of in the guild background. Yeah. How you want to add more? I'll do that. All right, so starting languages. So common and a background. Okay, and then you get, right. So you end up with 3. Which is not too bad, I suppose. I guess the nice thing with 3, now that I'm seeing it written down, I probably should have read that first. Because you don't end up with 1, you end up with 3. So you get 1, you get common, you get the background, and then you're going to get 1 that you choose. So you're not going to end up someone with 8 languages, but you're not going to get somebody who knows only 1 language. So everyone gets 3. I suppose as a group, you can figure out what goes which. So I guess that's okay, right? So I'll take back what I said about the languages being, because I only thought you were getting 1. So you get 3. Not too shabby. Soren Scott says they got rid of different languages in their game. Said there was only 1 god of language, so only 1 language. I don't have a problem with that. Because while languages are fun, oftentimes those barriers aren't always welcome. I think having a lot of languages makes sense when you have language a spread, because it gives you that chance of someone can get the highlight. If everybody speaks the same 3 languages, then you run into different people. The same person's probably going to take the lead all the time. But if you have different people know different languages, it's great, because then they get their little. I'm not usually someone who tries to spotlight everybody. I feel like you got to kind of find your groove, so to speak, a little bit, and I feel I always feel like it feels too artificial when I see someone trying to spotlight somebody. This is your moment, whatever. But languages are kind of one of the ways I think you can do that, and it doesn't even have to be in a way that's feels too forced. But just having a multitude of languages out there means that different people are going to have to step up, whether they want to or not, kind of do it. But it's not a super rare thing. So we get our standard rare languages list. That's fine. I'm not going to read through them. And then you just get to pick from one of those tables. So you can either choose a common or standard language or a rare one, but you don't get to double dip. Here we have feats. This section offers a collection of first level feats, which are special features not tied to a single class. First level, your character gains a feat from their background. Each feat has a level. To take a feat, your level must equal or exceed the feats level. Okay, so this is, I guess, is new, right? Because as 5th edition proper, all the feats are levelless. And I think in 3rd edition, I want to recall that feats were also levelless, but you had those feat chains, I think, or maybe they did have levels. I don't remember. It's been too long. I don't have my 3rd edition books anywhere nearby to look. Prerequisites. You must meet any prerequisite specified in a feat to take that feat. If you lose a feat's prerequisite, you can't use that feat until you regain the prerequisite. And then repeatable. If a feat is repeatable, you can take it more than once. If it isn't repeatable, you can only take the feat once. So we get alert. I'm not going to read through all of these. I'm thinking which ones are interesting. Is alert interesting? Hey, Ovaltine Patrol. Glad you made it. As I'm wrapping this bad boy up, I hope, because I notice I'm already over time. When you roll your initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll, and then you can also initiative swap. Immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally in the same combat. You can't make the swap if you or the ally is incapacitated. All right, so you can both add your proficiency bonus to the roll, and you can swap it, which is cool. So if someone has the alert feat, but you're in combat and it is necessary that somebody else do something first, and you got the high initiative because you were alert, you can swap with them, and then they can pull off their thing, which is cool because you can have this high initiative and never actually use it yourself. You can just keep giving it to other folks in your party as needed. Crafter, healer. What does healer do? You can be a battle medic. You can use the healer's kit. You can spend 1 use of your healer's kit and 10 to a creature. That creature can spend 1 of its hit dice, then reroll that die. And then they gain the number of hit points equal to that plus your proficiency bonus. And then whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or with this feat's battle medic benefit, you could reroll the die. If it rolls a 1, you must use the new roll. Lucky. You have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can spend the points on the benefits below, and you regain your expended luck points when you finish a long rest. And you can use it to advantage or disadvantage. This is where I kind of think, instead of having all these different pools that are based on your proficiency bonus, I would have one pool. This is what I do in my home game, where I have these kind of hero dice things, but essentially it's a pool, but everything comes out of the same pool. And I would do that here. Maybe in terms of they didn't run out of actions, maybe make it double your proficiency bonus, but that's your pool, and you can use it for whatever you want, whether it's your luck feat, whether it's your abilities, everything comes out of that one pool. So you just have to track one pool, and then if you want to spend all your things on using lucky, that's great, but then you come down to and say, ooh, I'd like to do this other thing instead. You're gonna say, well, do you have anything in your pool? No, I don't. Oh, well, you can't. And I like that way that you can be as focused if you want to use it on all in one thing as you want, or as spread out, but it's just one, you're tracking one resource. And you take it all there. And that's probably what I would do here, and not have all these things based on your proficiency bonus. You have to track it in like 8 different boxes. You got one box. Spend the stuff out of that one box over your life. But when that box is empty, it's empty for everything. That's how I would do that. All right, so I'm going to breeze through here. Magic Initiate, Musician, Savage Attacker, Skill, Tavern Brawler, Tough. And then we get into the rules glossary, which I'm not going to read through because I think we kind of know them, but you can come back and read them again if you need to. And then we get the spell list. I couldn't even tell you if all this stuff is different or not. And that's the end, right? That's the end of the document. Oh, what do we think, everybody? I'm not seeing anything horrible. I think, so a couple of things. If you are interested, this is not me. I'm just throwing it out there because I found it the other day. There is a one D&D subreddit. And I poked my head in there the other day. I knew I was going to do this already, so I didn't want to read through and get judgmental in different aspects. And plus they're getting all, this is where people are getting all in the weeds and all of this. Oh, is grappling better and this is not better, whatever. So, I didn't get in all that. I don't even know. Is there a grappling feat? Because people were talking about how I saw specifically stuff about grappling and I didn't see anything about grappling in here. And there's nothing about combat. So I don't know if there's a second test already. Did I skip something? A D20 test. Okay, here's the D20 test stuff. So I think Brian Smith was right. Ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. If something in the game affects D20 tests, it affects all three of those rolls. Okay, so that's good. Rolling 1. Oh, maybe it was Tavern Brawler. Enhanced unarmed strike. When you hit with your unarmed strike and deal damage, you can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of the normal damage of an unarmed strike. Damage rerolls. You can shove. You can use furniture as weapons. I don't know. Was there a grappler? Where's G? After a healer. I don't know. We're finding it. But anyway, you can get into that subreddit. They're getting all into that kind of stuff. So far, I'm pretty much fine with it. They've definitely found a template, I think, for the species stuff. You can see that elves, and a lot of these are following a similar template where you have a lineage, you get kind of a first level thing, and then you get a third level thing and a fifth level thing. In this case, they're pretty much using it all with spells, but again, same thing. When you get down to Tieflings, you get a legacy, and then you get a first level thing, a third level thing, and a fifth level thing. I'd be interested if they were to expand that outwards, because I think it is useful. I'm surprised they actually didn't do that with the Dragonborn with their breath level, have it scale up at those specific ones. But maybe that 1d10 plus 10, if you look at the whatever, it kind of scales in a slightly different way. Same thing with that. The Ardlings were kind of interesting, and they have that same thing, legacy. Then they kind of get an animal, and then they get a first level thing, a third level thing, a fifth level thing. So I kind of like that. It's nice to unlock some stuff with your, it gives you something to look forward to if you have let's say you're playing kind of a vanilla fighter. Excuse me. At least when you get to third and fifth level, you still feel like you're unlocking stuff. Also, Zacharias says, I think it's in conditions for grappling. I don't actually care about the grappling too much. I was not happy with, grappling is a hard, here it is, grappled. So the grapple condition, while you're grappled, you experience the following effects. Your speed is 0, your attacks are effective, you have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. You're movable, but you can escape by making a dex or strength saving throw. I don't think there have been really good grappling rules for any particular edition. In 5th edition, I didn't care for them too much. I don't really even recall them all that much, but I just didn't like it. I don't like it. They always have to make these exceptions and have different systems. So you go from using, hey, I'm attacking using your hit bonus and all stuff makes sense. But then you go to grappling and suddenly you're using your athletics skill. I just think if you're good at attacking stuff, which is your to hit thing, then just use that instead of using athletics. And I don't know. I don't know if there's a good way to use it, because I think a lot of these rules work best if grappling is something you do an exception. Once in a blue moon, I need to grapple something, and I grapple it. And not when it becomes somebody's main way of attacking. And I think regardless of whatever grappling rules I've seen, they seem to all work best when it's some flavor of it's an one-off kind of thing. Oh, I need to grapple somebody because they're trying to escape. I need to stop them. Something like that. And you come up with kind of an ad hoc style ruling. Great, works that. If once they become like, no, I'm going to become the grappler, and all I'm going to do is grapple things, then these rules I think never work as well as they should. And I don't think 5th edition is any different. And they haven't really done much. I don't know. We'll see. So I don't know. The grappled edition, I think people were talking about it, but it doesn't read any better or worse to me than it used to be. But I know that folks are picking up on that. Like Ari says, they never got a grappling system they liked. Yeah, me neither. They're all They're all kind of a piece. Flawed, I guess. Like, again, it's all about when you use it. If you're just using it as one time and I got to do it, I think they work fine. It's when people start to create builds of grapplers. But I think this is fine. It's a good start. I know people are probably shedding a tear for humans not getting more love, or they're losing their kind of special spot. But I mean, look, the way the game is right now, the game is no longer, I think, and hasn't been really for some time. Let's be honest, maybe since 3rd edition, maybe even since 2nd edition, whatever, a game of kind of human majority. This is a game where people are going to be playing species from all over the multiverse, megaverse, all over the planes, and they're all coming together and we're playing. And it's appealing to, I think, a lot more people. It moves it away, yes, from the classic sword and sorcery vibe, but I think that's long gone. And I know that they've tried to say with a variant human, which wasn't an option. It wasn't the default, but variant human to kind of sweeten the pot to try to get people to play humans. And I think that worked. I think a lot of people loved variant human when it was available, because just mechanically, not because people really wanted to play humans, but just think because of the mechanics. Just it gave it a mechanical superiority for some builds, and I think they've reduced that. And hey, that's just the way of it. Now it's just going to be down to, if you as the GM want to play in a human-centric world, and make your world human-centric, make that part of your campaign elevator pitch, and see if people want to do that. But I think just be ready with a lot of the modern community that people don't want to play in kind of human-centric games. Hey, if you like OSR, I think there's still a lot of love for kind of human-centric games in OSR land more than 5th edition. So maybe check out over there. But that's just the way it is, and it's probably is better that they're just leaning into it instead of not. I mean, they're following what the player base wants, and I think the player base wants to play all kinds of cool, fun, exciting species, and humans aren't that. Which makes sense. They're not exciting. Elliot says, crit damage only being on martial actions by characters is interesting too. None of monsters or spells at all. Oh yeah, I probably missed that. Yes, I remember. I did read about that. That monsters don't crit hit, and you only get it being on martial actions by characters. That is interesting. I don't know how I feel about it yet, and I did. That was one of the few things I read in that one D&D subreddit, was someone saying how their players felt kind of cheated because all the rolls were on the open, and they saw that monsters weren't critting them anymore. Or they couldn't crit them anymore. That I bet you that'll be probably one of the first things house rolled to give back those crits. I don't know. I think it's something you got to play through it and see how it feels to not get it. It's 5% of the time is a monster going to get potentially double damage however you calculate crits, and then you take it away. Maybe you give them something else monsters do if you want to make them more threatening. Not sure. I kind of like that crits were sort of universal in that way, that anybody could get them. Kind of good for the goose, good for the gander. But it's kind of a flavor thing, style thing. Yeah, so, play with it, see what you like. But it's a real easy thing to house rule if you want to house rule. So not a big thing. Elliot says monsters are supposed to have more like recharge big attacks. Oh, yeah, I like that. I remember 4th edition had that, and I think 5th edition on some monsters has that too, right? Where like you get your breath weapon back if you roll a 6. So you roll a die at the end of their turn, they would get back some kind of attack. That's cool. I can see that. So Carrie says, if I have to make an attack roll for my spell, I better damn well be able to crit. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of tweaking. I think there's going to be a lot of changing, and I think it's just going to be about playing it and seeing how it works out. Maybe they're going to give stuff up on the other end, like they're going to take away from monsters, maybe they give some monsters some kind of attacks. If they take away from certain spells, are they going to give those spells some other kind of little thing? Like people like crits. So it may be one of the more controversial things, to be honest, they're doing is limiting the kind of crits. But I think they also, I thought I saw something that they are setting 20s to be auto successes on skills. I believe I saw that. It's not in this document, I don't think, but it is there. So it's another thing to be aware of, that I think they're putting in the fact that if you're going to have somebody roll a skill and they roll 20, they're going to succeed. So don't have them roll skills if there's no chance for success. And I know that got some people talking about, well, but I roll for this reason or that reason. Well, you just got to just know that if you have them roll, there's going to be a 5% chance they make it, even if you have no intention of them making it. So use that power accordingly. Hey, Krister, you almost missed the stream, and indeed, I'm about to wrap it up. So go back to the beginning, Krister, and check it out. But yeah, if you folks like this, I gotta head out. Give a thumbs up on your way out. That would be awesome. If you find yourself in here and you're not subscribed and you like this stuff, please subscribe. helps me out and doesn't really do you any harm, I don't think. Not much harm, anyways. But yeah, this was playtest document number 1. So far, so good. I'm really curious to see where they go from here and how they're going to integrate all this stuff and kind of what are these expansions that they mentioned in that video intro that they're going to be doing. Because so far they're kind of moving things around a little bit. I didn't see much expansion necessarily, but we'll see where that stuff comes in. Ovaltuber says they have a cramp in their finger after clicking the like button. Well, sorry about that. Apologies for that, Ovaltine Patrol, but appreciate it. Anyhow, I'm glad to be back, and my voice will be getting better all the time, I hope. So sorry if it's a bit more gravelly, marbly than usual. That's blame that one on the COVIDs. But have a great rest of your day or night whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later. Ciao, everybody.